Izquierdo, who I've been watching on LinkedIn for many years. When we started with Eric, you know, I'd always reach out on LinkedIn to people I thought that might be a good interest to our organization, leaders in the community. And I consider Chris a very important leader, especially in his sector and as an entrepreneur. And I think you'll be very inspired by what he has to say to you this morning. So, and I really enjoyed our conversation the other day. Chris, thanks so much for taking time for both Elena and I, and thank you for taking time for our clients today. So the forum is yours.
Thanks, Doug. Let me quickly share my screen. And I want to make sure I'm sharing the right one. All right. So I hope that everybody can share the screen. Thanks for the introduction, Doug. I really appreciate it. And thank you, everybody that took, you know, an hour of your day to attend this webinar. I noticed that I could barely sleep last night, and I was a little bit nervous. And I'm usually not nervous when I'm doing public speaking. And so this morning when I woke up finally around 6 a.m., I was trying to reflect on why. Why was I nervous? And I realized that this is it's almost a therapy session for me. Like, I'm not usually one to look back at what has happened in my life. I'm always trying to look towards the future and what is yet to happen. And this presentation has forced me to go through that journey. And I hope you enjoy it. I had a lot of fun doing that and anxiety. So I hope you enjoy it. So first, let me just quickly introduce myself a little bit in more depth. So my name is Chris Izquierdo. And Doug, by the way, this is the only time, one of the few times, where my last name has been spelled properly or has been pronounced properly. It's usually a disaster. That's one of the fun facts of being a newcomer or a foreigner, an immigrant here in Canada. So, as I mentioned, my name is Chris Izquierdo. I have founded a number of companies. You can see their logos at the bottom of the screen. The main one being De Facto Technologies is probably the one that we're known for. And I'll go into detail on what De Facto is, but think about it. It's a global company. It's a national company with offices in Edmonton, Calgary, Regina, and Toronto. Specializes on IT consulting. We also launched and sold Morgan Thomas. Morgan Thomas was acquired last year by RSM, and now they have become their consulting branch of RSM Canada. It's a global firm that specializes on management consulting. We are also in the process of kicking off Sparrow Modern Workplace. It's a product company, IT product company that specializes on corporate communications and trying to solve the problem of corporate communication at scale. When you have a large organization, you have to communicate with your employees. How do you do that effectively? And Digital Control, which is an Adobe consulting experience type of company. So, but I don't want to start here. We're going to talk about, you know, how do you prepare, or how do I prepare for times of uncertainty? So I want to start back at the beginning, and you know, I'm not going to go as far back as obviously when I was born and so on. But when I attended university, I went to the University of Havana, and I attended the computer science program at that university. And if you're familiar with Cuban history, and once I tell you that the time frame in which I attended the university, which was from 92 to 97, you realize that was a very uncertain time in Cuba. The socialist bloc has collapsed. The foreign aid that we receive in Cuba had disappeared overnight, and we had many problems in our country. And during this time, I'm attending this 5-year program at the university, which is probably the hardest program that Cuba had at the time. And from everything, from how to get to school. So that picture, that's one of the buses that I took to get to school, and people hanging on the outside was a common occurrence. This is not a one-off. You could have taken this picture at any point in time during the day in Havana. And not only that, we also have blackouts. So there was a series of blackouts. There were rolling blackouts, 8 hours of electricity, 8 hours of blackouts on a daily basis. So if you're keeping track, there will be a day where there would be 16 hours of blackouts and only 8 hours of electricity, right? So it was a very challenging time, very uncertain in my country. And there was no easy way to get to the university. There was no easy way to study, especially because in computer science at the time, you need electricity. There was no laptops back then. So one of the main things that we had to have was the power in order to be able to do our assignments and so on. So one of the things that we did is assignments were done overnight. From the 12 a.m. to 8 a.m. Time frame, if there was electricity there, you will go to the lab, and that's when you work on your assignment. And then at 9 a.m. you will go to class till 4 p.m. and so on, and then go home. So it was really challenging at the time. The other thing, and this is a great story, at least for me, or a great memory. So I used to ride a bike to school when the situation got even worse than what you see in that picture. The only way to get to university was by riding a bike. And my mom was a professor of psychology at the university at the time, and we would ride together. So she has a PhD in psychology, and she wasn't on the same boat. So we had a lot of time to talk, and she taught me a lot through those rides through Havana. So that was the first time where I really found uncertainty in my life. Well, to that point, my life was pretty coordinated and so on, but I'm embarking in this new career. I'm trying to learn a new field, and all of this is happening around me. So what do I learn from that experience? And that experience, I learned about focusing on what you can control. There's always going to be factors in your life and the surroundings that you cannot control, that are impossible to control. And if you look at the blackouts, if you look at the economic situation in Cuba and so on, that was out of my control. I couldn't do anything about that, really. What I could do is, within what I could control, figure out the best schedule to get my assignments done, the best schedule to get my classes done, and so on. The other thing that I learned is that regardless of any hardships that you might be going through right now, that you have gone in your past, if you educate yourself, nobody can take that away from you. And that's also really important, because when you think about the future, the more education you have, the easier that future could become. And so always aim to train, to learn, to educate yourself. It doesn't have to go, it doesn't have to be you have to go to university, but there's a lot of career advancement courses, provided by a lot of organizations, and some of them are even free. You don't have to spend a dime to get into those programs. Do it. It will come back and help you. So that was the university experience when I was in my fifth year of university, my last year of university. There was a co-op opportunity that was presented to me. So a company from Edmonton, of places, called Sentai Software, came to the university and put forward a co-op opportunity for a student to apply and win, and then travel to Canada to experience what an IT company in Canada is all about. And that was interesting. It was very far-fetched, so there was a lot of things that were against me winning that opportunity, right? For example, there was it had never been done in Cuba. So the University of Havana had never sent anybody abroad for a co-op opportunity. It requires special permission from the Ministry of Education in Cuba. There was a limited time frame to apply for visa, get my passport done, and so on. And on top of all of that, I had to be the chosen one on that opportunity. But what I did is rather than thinking about those obstacles, I said, I'm going to apply, and we'll see what happens. And sure enough, I go and I met with the owner of Sentai. We had a great conversation. In my broken English, it was really, really bad at the time, even though I thought I could speak English really well. And and surprisingly to me, they chose me for the opportunity. And then there was all the other hurdles that we have to conquer, and one by one they were conquered. And eventually, one day in March of 1997, I still know the day, March 13, 1997, I made a trip to Edmonton for a 6-month co-op opportunity. Now, this is the image that I have in my head of Edmonton. Edmonton didn't look like this, obviously, but 1997 was a really cold year. It was the year that we had the snowstorm, the ice storm in eastern Canada, especially in Quebec and Ontario, that downed a number of power lines and so on. And it wasn't any warmer here. When I left Cuba, it was 33 degrees in Havana. When I landed in Edmonton, it was minus 26, and this is in March. So when you talk about uncertainty, here is, I was 21 at the time, so I'm 21 years old. I'm landing in a country in which I don't speak the language. I don't know anybody. I was able to borrow $10 from a friend. That's all the money I have, and I'm coming for a 6-month adventure where my family doesn't know how to reach me. There was no cell phones at the time. I don't know when I'm going to be able to communicate back home and tell them that I'm okay and so on. So I still remember and it's a quick funny story. I landed in Toronto, and I go through immigration and all that. We get all the paperwork that most of us as immigrants, well, all of us as immigrants will have to do. And at the time, it's a temporary visa, right? So it's fairly quickly processed and so on. And there's somebody with a sign with my name on it waiting for me at the airport, and he takes me to the Sheraton Hotel on Terminal 3, and he pays for the room. I don't have any money, so he pays for the room, leaves his credit card on file, and so on. I go to my room. For the first time in my life, I'm looking forward to taking a hot shower. So if any of you are from Cuba, you would know what I mean, that we barely had any running water. And when we had running water, it was usually cold water. There was no hot water coming out of our taps, right? So I'm excited to take a hot water for the first time. I open the tabs and regulate the temperature to what I want, but I don't know how to get the water come off the top. And it was a nightmare. Like I just couldn't do it. So I put shorts on, I wrap a towel around my waist, and I went into the hallway in broken English to try to convince somebody to show me how to take a hot shower. That went as well as you probably expect. They were ready to call security on me. Thankfully they didn't, and this lady, this maid of the hotel, realized that I was serious, that I didn't know how to do that, and then she showed me how to pull that lever and get some hot water come off the top. But that's the reason I'm telling you that story is because you start to realize how different my life was and how uncertain this new life that I was going to be. So I landed in Edmonton and I started working at Sentai Software. The role wasn't very glamorous. I've gone through 5 years of education at the time, and it was really harsh education. And what I was going to do was quality assurance type of role, a junior developer fixing bugs and so on. But regardless, what I decided to do is I'll do my best job. I'll do my best possible job regardless of what has been assigned to me. So if they want to assign me the worst possible job in the company, that's okay. I'm very grateful that I have this opportunity to learn. And inside of me, and this might be a fear that some of you have as immigrants, inside of me, I had this fear that I wasn't worth it. That, yes, I went through 5 years of education, but what if that education is not top notch? What if it's not to the level that it needs to be in order to be successful in Canada? What I quickly realized, and this is what you're going to quickly realize, is that if you work hard, you advance, and probably you know more than you give yourself credit for, right? So I started fixing as many bugs as I could find. I'll find them, fix them, find them, fix them, and so on. And about 3 weeks into this process, the team around me took me out for lunch. And I'm like, oh, this is great. This is a great bonding opportunity. We're going to go out for lunch, and, we're going to talk and so on. And sure enough, we go out for lunch, and they had a little bit of a hidden agenda. And the hidden agenda was, they came to me and says, you're making us look bad. You're fixing too many bugs. You're fixing more bugs than we are. And you're brand new. And this is making us look bad. My response was, and anything I do, I'll try to do my best, and including fixing those bugs. And I'm very grateful that I'm here. So please don't take it the wrong way, but I'm going to continue to fix as many bugs as I can, right? And I think that was what it was a harsh answer for the team that was talking to me. I think it made them realize that I was serious about my career. This company realized that I was serious about my career and what I was doing. The main problem I had was language, and that's probably the main problem that a lot of you will face if you come from, I come from a Spanish background. And I made a point every single day to watch TV with subtitles on and learn the language. And then I'll read books that I could read in Spanish, I will read them in English, and I will find words that I will learn every single day. That's really, really important for all of you that come from a different language or that English is your second language. Please pay attention to English. Make sure you learn that language. Try your best to talk about it. If you cannot communicate, it's really difficult to advance in any country. And, Canada is no exception to that. So what I learned from this experience, I spent those 6 months in Canada. What did I learn from that experience? Well, I think you need to pursue opportunities that interest you, regardless of, how difficult or far-fetched they may seem. It's important for you to continue to pursue them. I think you also have to do the best job you can at whatever role is assigned to you. You never know, and you will see later in this narrative how doing the best job I could at what is a low-entry role, produce rewards later on, and rewards that, quite frankly, I had no idea that they were going to come my way, right? And then the last one is you have to learn English. The better English you speak, the easier your life is going to be, the more you're going to be able to advance in your career. And that is critical. I know it's hard, and it was hard for me. It took me about 6 months watching Friends reruns to learn the language to a level that I was comfortable having a conversation. So just keep those things in mind. So I spent those 6 months here in Canada, and it actually turned out to be 8. They extended me for a couple more months, and then I talked to the owner of that company, of Sentai, and I said, I would love to live in Canada, but I have to do the right thing. I have to go back to Cuba, and I have to graduate from university. I'm very close. All I'm missing is my thesis. I'm not gonna, jeopardize that diploma or that bachelor degree for if I stay in Canada. And it's not the right thing to do as well. There are a lot of people trust me that I was gonna come back to my country, and I did. So the way it worked is he flew with me to Havana. We went to the the embassy, and the embassy granted me a visa, Canadian visa, within I think it was 45 days. At the time, there was a special pilot program for computer specialists. This is during the dot-com boom. There was not enough computer specialists in Canada, and it was fast track. Cuba had different opinions, and they said they took away my ID, they took away my passport, and sent me home and said, "We'll call you when we're ready for you to leave the country." So talk about uncertainty. I asked them, when would that be? And they said, "We don't know." Some people, and then you hear rumors, of course, of people that have been in this situation for 3 to 5 years, people that have been in the situation for 6 months. So you have no idea which way, your life is going to go for the next number of months, potentially years, right? So I did what I always done, and I talked to the CIO, the Chief Information Officer of CIMEX Corporation. And if you're familiar with Cuba, CIMEX Corporation is the largest corporation in Cuba. They do everything. It's a centralized government, and think about them as Service Alberta, but for the entire country, right? From hotels to whether it's hotels, gas stations, real estate, stores, or that is managed by CIMEX. And that CIMEX was the IT division of that corporation. So I talked to the owner. He told me, well, I cannot, not the owner, but the CIO. He told me, I cannot pay you. And I said, I don't want you to pay me. I just want access to a computer so that I can work and practice my craft. And it's free. I'm going to be forever thankful if you give me that opportunity. And you're getting free labor in exchange for me receiving that opportunity. He thought about it, and he said, yeah, we can make that work. And that was that was great because I didn't know how long I was going to be in that situation. It turned out that I ended up being in that situation for 18 months, so a year and a half. So finally, towards the end of 1998, I was able to come to Canada. But during that period, I continued to learn. And one of the things that I did, and CIMEX at the time bought Sentai, the software that Sentai produced. So one of the things that I focused my efforts on is creating a module for the software for Sentai that was around distributed processing. And at the time, now it's commonplace, but at the time, they didn't have that module that allows them to distribute works across multiple servers and so on. So I built that. I built it for free while I was working at CIMEX. And one of the things that I did as well is I spent a lot of evenings with Alfredo. He's the one on the right there on the screen, and he was a great mentor to me. Right, this is a time where I'm very frustrated. I don't have a legal status in Cuba. I don't know when I'm going to be able to go to Canada, and he was able to see me the long-term picture. He was able to grant me a lot of serenity to face the situation that I was having, and he was. I mean, he was an amazing individual that has lived a long and very fruitful life. So he was like a coach and a mentor to me over time. So eventually the situation was resolved. I got the notice that I could leave the country. I could go and get my passport back. There's a special permit that you have to get in Cuba and so on. And I was able to do it. But there was a lot of uncertainty in my life during that period. So what did I learn? Well, I learned about that doing the right thing is hard, but it is still the right thing. You still have to do it. You know, if you try to take shortcuts in life, your life might not turn out to be the way you want it. You might get short-term gains for long-term pain, right? So I traded short-term pain for long-term gains, and what I was able to do once I came here legally is I could come back to my country whenever I wanted to, and I could see my family, and I could spend time with them and so on. I think the other lesson is find mentors, and I've been on a crusade to find any mentors that are willing to dedicate some time to me since. You know, they'll provide you with a different perspective, and they really help you avoid mistakes. And the last thing I learned from the experience that I would like to share is that, you know, the most uncertain thing that I've done in my life is to immigrate to Canada. The best thing, but also the most uncertain. And a lot of you, if you're immigrants to this wonderful country that we live in, you will realize that you've already taken that step. And that's, if you talk about uncertainty, that is the pinnacle of uncertainty, right? So keep those things in mind. Keep everything in perspective when it comes to uncertainty, because you have already taken that step, that significant step. So then I finished everything in Cuba. I was able to fly back to Canada, and I arrived in Canada. I was very lucky. I had a job waiting for me. The module that I built while at CIMEX for Sentai software, they bought it and they were using it, so they were quite thrilled that I would be living in Edmonton and that they could offer me a job. So they did. And then an exciting work opportunity came my way. So Sentai established a contract with 20th Century Fox, the movie producer, to manage all their movie inventory worldwide. That requires significant changes to the software. And they came to me and said, would you like to run that project? At the time, I was terrified. That's a lot of uncertainty. I've studied the technical aspects of computer science, not the management aspects, right? Like the management side. And moving into management so early in my career terrified me. You know, what if I'm not cut out to do that? What if I lose my skills and erode my skills, and so on? But just like a lot of things in my life, it was an opportunity, and it will introduce uncertainty, but there was also excitement in it, right? So I said, yes, I'll do it. And we started on this project, and you know, I learned a lot. I had to take some training. So again, the always learning, forever learning, which is important. I took some training, started managing the work I made so many mistakes that, you know, we don't have time for them. But the project ended up, and we were successful. We started managing their inventory, or they started managing their inventory using our software and so on. I remember that I was able to, by accident, meet George Lucas, and I got a poster of Star Wars Episode 1, which was coming out at that time, and it was really, really great, right? So was I interested in management? Nah, not really. But I tried anyway, see if I liked it. If I didn't, I could always go back to what I knew and what I love, right? Over time, it grew on me, and I started to realize that I can have a bigger impact if I learn to manage people. If I can get those people to actually produce good software, it will drive a bigger impact, right? So from that experience, one of the things that I had to do was learn about Canadian society, and that's something else. Like if you're an immigrant to this country and you live with two things today, you have to learn English and you have to learn how the society works. Those two things are key. It doesn't mean that you have to drop your identity. I'm still as Cuban as anybody, right? You know, I'm doing this from my mom's house because my internet connectivity at home is not that great. So I came here, and on the way here, I was listening to Cuban music and so on. Doesn't mean you drop that, but you do need to understand the language. And the better you understand how society works, the easier it's going to be promoted, to move forward, and so on. You must continue to learn as much as possible, and as many topics as possible. Sometimes those topics you might not know when they're going to come back and help you, but they will. They really will. And the last thing I learned, and I knew this when I emigrated to Canada, is that Canada is truly the best country in the world. There's no other country, and I've traveled the world quite a bit. It's one of my passions, and I've been to Africa, I've been to South America, I've been to Australia, New Zealand, Europe, and so on, and I haven't found any country remotely as nice as or as good to live in as Canada. So that's something else that I learned. From there, I felt that I was ready. And I was ready for my next adventure. I didn't have enough uncertainty in my life, so I had to introduce some. And on March of 2007, I founded my first company, De Facto Technologies. And that's my business partner, David Cron, in there. We have another business partner, Rancel Lopez, who's also Cuban. So the three of us decided to fund this company called De Facto Technologies. As David's wife said, that's the best that 3 gigs could come up with. And that was the name. We tried everything to find different names, but we couldn't. So the company, I still remember, it was funded in this house where I'm sitting right now, and we have a dining room table. I called both of them to the house and said, hey, I'll buy pizza, have some beers, and I want to talk to you guys about something. We always had joke that we could do it better, right? Like we could, you know, we worked together at a couple of companies, and we're like, there's things here that we don't like that we think we can change if we had our own company. Why don't we start our own company? And we kept talking like that. So I finally had enough of talk, and I sat down with them and I said, I want to start a company. I want you guys to come with me, and you know, it's going to be great. It's going to be a great adventure. You go think about it, but I want an answer, you know, by next week. Otherwise, I'm starting on my own. I'd rather be with you, but if you're not ready, I understand. I just go on my own. So to their credit, they thought about it and they came back with, yes, let's do this. It's going to be great, and it has been great. We've been operating De Facto Technologies, you know, for the last 13 years, and it has been excellent. I still remember, you know, my wife, well, she reminds me of this all the time. She was my girlfriend at the time. She had this beautiful dining room table that she loved, and unfortunately, I wasn't well versed on the arts of pizza ordering, I guess. So I put the hot box right on the table and I burned it. So there's still, you know, that table had a burn mark that she couldn't get out, you know, regardless of what she tried. So she's still disappointed about that burn table, and I keep telling her that that's the best burn table that we ever had. So if I'm going to wreck furniture and start a company that is as successful as De Facto, I should wreck everything we have. So when we build De Facto, we build it on a number of principles, and I'm sharing them with you so you can see how the narrative that we had so far applies to the principles that we build the company on. So we build software for humans, not machines. Earlier today, when we were talking about the UX and UI being more of an art, that art is really needed if your software is going to be easy to use, if this software is going to be adopted. So we built De Facto and established a UX team, UX UI team right away. We're focusing on a wow experience that transcends the final solution. So good software for us is a must. You need to have it. But the experience to get you there is usually very mystical. Like if you're not in technology, you don't know how great software is produced. Well, we do, and we walk you through it in a way that you understand as well and that you love the experience. We focus on our employees. At the end of the day, they're the ones working with our clients, and that's key. We have to give them all the tools to progress in their career, all the tools that they need to be successful, and as well, give them a platform by which they can, talk to their coworkers, relate to their coworkers, and so on. We bring all the families together twice a year. We do a lot for our employees. By the way, the picture on the left there is for Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year in 2012. And we didn't know that they were going to use that picture. If you look at that magazine, everybody had, they're very serious, like button up sort of picture. And here we're making fools of ourselves as, tigers or something like that. So anyway, it was a little bit embarrassing, but we won that year in professional investment services in Alberta. So it was really thrilling to do. And another crazy story is I couldn't even make it to the gala, so somebody else had to accept the award on our behalf because we couldn't make it because we were so busy focused on our company. The other thing that we focus is on innovation, as well as never stop improving. Those are two key things that for us are key for our company. So if somebody says, well, we've always done it that way, for me, that's the worst phrase in the English language. You have to find, just because you always done it that way, there might be a better way of doing it. So let's continue to improve. As long as it's an improvement, I'm happy. Let's continue to move forward. So those are the principles. Now, we started De Facto in 2017. And if you remember, in 2007. And if you remember, there was a financial crisis, which was global in nature, but it was really, really bad in Alberta as well as the rest of Canada in 2008. So, we started, I stopped my job. I had a high paying job, a nice paying job as a consultant with the government at the time, stopped that, came and started De Facto, and then the bottom falls from underneath us. And it became clear that we had great intentions and a roadmap for how we're going to execute De Facto, but that went off the window as soon as this thing started to happen. But what we learned is that there was a lot of opportunities, even within this challenging times, especially for a small company like ours, right? We could actually grow and do a lot of good things. And one of the things that we did is look at consulting, as I mentioned, a little bit different, and clients started to respond to that. So we're in the middle of a downturn as well right now. So I'm telling you, if you ever wanted to start a company, now is a great time to start a company. Larger companies, so why is that? Larger companies have a hard time to adapt to change. Steering that boat is really, really difficult, and shifting the direction is really difficult. Small companies are way more nimble. The market's become ripe for disruption. You just have to find what parts of the market are, what segments of the market are growing and why are they growing, and then try to come up with something new and different. The other thing that's interesting is, like, of course, a small company needs less capital, and clients to thrive and grow than bigger ones. So, if you, like right now, at De Facto, we have 170 consultants. Well, we have to keep 170 people busy. in order to continue to grow our company, right? If you have 2 or 3, it's a little bit easier to find those. So don't think of the downturn as a bad thing necessarily. Yeah, it is terrible, and it's terrible what's happening, but there's opportunities built into that downturn. So think about it. So we started investing into the company. By the way, we never got any investment from any banks or anything like that. No bank will invest in us. Like, there's 3 computer geeks trying to start a company with no business experience. Banks look at us and run away. Some of them didn't even give us a meeting, right, to have that conversation. And what we did is we each put $500. So there was $1,500. That was the seed money. We went to an auction and bought the servers. It was a government auction, and we got there were servers that were used by Edmonton police, and we got them for like $300. And brand new, they would be $30,000 or something like that. So there's as I mentioned, like, if you're creative, you're going to be able to find things. But our success through the 2008, 9, and 10 got us in front of on the cover of Alberta Venture magazine as the fastest growing company in Alberta in 2010. Just to give you an idea, when I say that the downturn is not a bad time to start a company, I mean it. So everything was going well. If you fast forward a few years, we've run the company. We're in four cities, soon to be 5. We have 170 to 180 employees and contractors and consultants and so on. And then, as you probably have known, there's a global economic crisis and a pandemic that happened. It really started apparently in last year in China, but hit the Canadian economy and our provinces, our province in particular, in March, April of this year. So what did we do? Well, initially I felt sorry for the situation that we were going to face, and then I quickly realized, well, that's not what we need to do. So what we need to do is this. We created a crisis management team. So we created a crisis management team that is led by David, my business partner. And the purpose of that management team, that crisis management team, is to manage the crisis that we have from a number of aspects. One, which is from an economical point of view. So how do we preserve cash? How do we go to market? How do we change our go-to-market strategy to meet the new demands that working from home is creating, as an example, right? The other thing that we did then is, well, we need to look at the health and well-being of our employees. So we had a great culture at De Facto where everybody interacts with everybody on a regular basis. We shut down the company at 4 p.m. on Fridays so that people can have a beer together and can socialize. We had monthly socials where we go and do something together as a team. Sometimes we invite spouses and children and so on. And all that overnight disappeared, right? One of the things that we had to focus on is, like, how do we ensure that continues to happen with, at De Facto, at least in a virtual way. And this team was tasked with that, and they have done an excellent job to continue to keep that sense of community inside the company with some really interesting things. Like, for example, we still have the virtual beer o'clock on Fridays, but what happens when you have 80 people on that call is that the extroverts dominate the conversation, right? And the introverts feel left out. So what we did is we've done something called social roulette, which is in a group of 5. It's an intimate conversation. It's like coffee on a group of 5 for 15 to 20 minutes twice a week. And it's optional. If you want, you attend, and those 5 people rotate throughout the week. So we're in week 14 of that program, and it's been very, very helpful and very good. We started playing not just defense, which is, cash preservation, cost cutting, and so on, but we also started playing offense. So through marketing and sales, how do we change our go-to-market strategy to be able to generate more leads and so on? And the interesting thing is, like, we're about to start hiring for some roles going forward. So we're not growing, but we haven't shrunk as much as a lot of our competitors, and unfortunately a lot of companies that were hit by the economy. And I'm also I also recognize that we're in the digital economy, which is a little bit different. So one of the things that we've done is, for example, now we have clients in the US. That's something that we were making a concerted effort to get clients in the US, because I think they're a little bit more open to new projects at this point in their coronavirus journey and so on. So, you know, there's opportunity during a crisis. You need, the challenge is to identify, like, you need to find what that opportunity is. You have to ignore the bad and doomsday news that are around you. If you listen to news, and I was doing that at the beginning of the pandemic on a regular basis, and at some point I said, I have to stop. Like, yes, it is terrible what's happening, but I have to focus on what I can control. And what I can control is, you know, who I interact with, how I interact with, what I do from personal hygiene and social distancing and so on, as well as my company, and how do we keep it afloat and thriving in these times. So there's opportunities. So think about the opportunity, not just the problem. You must also change your mindset. At the beginning, I felt like a victim. It's like, okay, it's terrible that this is happening when we had all this momentum. And then we go, okay, let's not be a victim. What can we do to change that mindset inside our company? And that's been one of the hardest things that we have done over the last 14 weeks. And, you know, if you help others and hard work, it always pays off. So that's the most recent time of uncertainty. That's the times that we're in and what we're trying to do. I just wanted to give you some of the principles by which I'm living my life, and just to give you an idea, a little bit more insight into who I am and where I am as a human being, as a person, right? So one of the things that I'm doing is simplifying my life. I got caught up on the, well, you can afford it, then you should have it type of mentality. And about 2 years ago, my wife and I decided, no, it's not about material things. We need to change the way we're approaching this. And you know, we have multiple houses and so on. We're selling them, or we have sold them. We have luxury items that we didn't really need that we're dealing with. So we want a simple life is something that we're looking for. This is the second one is something that I've done forever in my life. I try to learn at least one new skill every year, and I make a concerted effort about it. Well, and some of it might be related to work, but a lot of it is not. Like, you know, from guitar playing to photography to windsurfing and so on. Always try to learn something to keep myself young, refreshed, and give me a challenge. And I also minimize the time spent in front of TV. You know, a lot of people come to me and says, hey, have you watched, include whatever series you want? The odds are I haven't. I just don't spend time in front of TV. I spend time doing, you know, focusing on what's important to me. And you can see some of those things in this slide. So, you know, from business to healthy lifestyle, to family, to experiences, to learning, and so on. The other thing that I do, and something that I would recommend some of you do if you're so inclined, is I create, and my wife does the same, an annual plan for our life. And we focus on different aspects. You can see it there, from business to personal growth, to family, to community, to stretch. And these are goals that we review on a monthly basis. So we set them at the beginning of the year, usually in December or early January, and then we continuously review them to see how we're doing. The stretch section, they're 10-year goals. So they're long-term goals that you have to take steps to achieve now. And that's something that we do on an annual basis. So I have a template. If anybody's interested, I'm happy to send it to you. You can fill the template, and hopefully we'll guide you through the process. You need about 3 to 4 hours, or at least we need 3 to 4 hours to really quiet time to think about it, to come up with what those are. They're deep inside your head. You just have to get them out. And by putting them down on paper or onto a spreadsheet, you're able to really materialize a lot of these goals. It's amazing what happens. So, excuse me. So I want to leave you with this, and then we'll open it up for questions. Sorry, I'm taking quite a bit of time here, but this is a quote from a book, and I wish I remember which book it is from. I'll credit it if I did, but I don't. But I wrote it down. One of the things that I do is I write any quotes or passages from books that I find interesting. You know, the world's biggest problems equal the world's biggest opportunities. It used to be that only pharaohs and conquerors could change the world. Then with the Industrial Revolution, industrialists could change it. But in the last 10 to 15 years, technology advances have made it possible for anyone in an industrialized country to do so. We all can and should aim to do so. If you believe in the digital economy, if you believe in technology, we have the means. We all have access to a computer. We all have access to the internet. That's really all you need these days to change the world. And with that, happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Chris. That was extremely inspiring. So we have a few questions here. And one question is about what to do if you do not have a job offer, if you come here, and where to start.
Yeah, that's a great question. Okay, so I'll tell you what I've done. So if you remember the story about CIMEX and Cuba, I literally work for free. I literally gain experience. Like, I just graduated from university. I don't have any work experience other than Senta in Canada as a co-op student. I literally went there, talked to the CIO, and worked for free. You can volunteer. That's a great way of doing this. The times are really challenging. Not too many companies are hiring. There's a global pandemic as well as an economic crisis going on right now. But it would be hard to believe that companies will say no to you wanted to do something for free for a month. And you can say, hey, I'm happy to do it for a month, and after that we'll have a conversation about pay. So if I prove myself, and you can choose whatever time frame you want, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, right? And make sure that you find the right employer to have that conversation with, so they don't take advantage of you. But that's one way for sure of doing it. I mean, the other thing is there's a lot of websites where you can bid on work as an independent consultant, right? And you might be able to win some of those depending on rates and skill set and so on, right? So that could be another way of doing that. Or start something. If you're passionate about something and you have a good idea, try to see it come to fruition.
Thanks, Chris. Sarah, other questions?